afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's well today. Not going to be my usual crazy show today, simply because I don't think it's appropriate. We're going to be discussing the Dele Alli interview I don't know if it came out last night or this morning, but if you haven't seen it's pretty harrowing. And it's just seems like the right time to take a break and have a serious conversation about mental health. I am the usual joker, but it's just not appropriate today. So today we are going to go through the Dele Alli interview and discuss the culture in football, this toxic masculinity, and also some of my own personal experiences that I've had. So yeah, that's the plan for today. I did put a warning out if anyone gets triggered by things like this, so hopefully everyone's prepared. I'm not going to go too deep into sensitive subjects, but I just feel it's important that we cover it. So before we start, let's have a look who's in chat. Hi Kate, hope you're well. Hello Stuart, nice to see you. I hope you're well. Good afternoon Jim, nice to see you in chat. Afternoon Drula, looking lovely as always. Love your backdrop. Yeah, it's just something I'm trying. I'm not sure if it's any good or if I'm all wobbly, but I kind of liked it. I thought it was really cool. Who else have we got in? Big up Kate. Thanks Jim. Afternoon Kate, Mira Nash. This is going to be an emotional one. Hi Ellie. Do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if I cry. I'm always an emotional wreck anyway, but as I said, I just don't think today's the day for joking. So I thought I'd do a little half hour on my own, and then I've got Ashmatic and Mia coming on to discuss it further. I hope no one feels uncomfortable. That's the last thing that I want anyone to feel. I just want everyone to know how I feel and that this is a safe space, because mental health is just such a taboo subject still, even in 2023. And I just think sometimes you've got to address these things head on. So big up Derm, hope you're well. It's okay Kate to say what I told you. Okay, I probably won't say what exactly anything. I'm just going to play it by ear, see how the show goes. Let's wait and see. Afternoon Wayne, I do hope you are well. So yeah, let's crack on. Dele Alli opened up about his childhood trauma and prescription drug addiction due to mental health issues. Do we judge players too quickly without really knowing what's going on behind the smile? James and I watched this morning. We basically both sat in silence because it was so unexpected and so brutally honest and frank that I think it took us both back a bit. Very emotional interview from Dele. I, for one, put my hands up and say I'm guilty of being in the camp of, oh, he's lazy, he's not interested in the game anymore, things like that. Whereas when you watch that interview, you realise that, yes, he comes across as the joker, always having a laugh with Sonny and, you know, just puts this brave smile on his face. But what he's actually gone through is actually quite incredible. He mentioned that he was sexually abused by somebody that his mum knew when he was younger, that he was hung off a bridge by someone from another estate. He was smoking 7, I think he said. It was really harrowing stuff. One of the most candid interviews I think I've ever seen. And you even saw in that interview his little giggles and the way he tries to cover up how he's really feeling. But if you haven't watched it, do go over and watch it. It's on the Overlap, and it's with Gary Neville. But I mean, you'll find it. It's everywhere. It's all over Sky Sports News. So yeah, it was a real hard watch, and it just shows we all slag these players down. I mean, look at Sanchez when he came on and then got booed to come on, and then he got subbed again and booed when he went off. None of us really know what's going through their head. We just think, oh, they're millionaires. They can take it. They earn a fortune. You know, it's all part of the game. But everybody has got a heart, and everybody has their own struggles. So do we judge players too quickly? Yes. Is there an agenda in the media about footballers being a bit soft? Yes. I was reading Patrice Evra is campaigning hard against toxic masculinity within the sport, which is fantastic. I just don't think that there's the awareness or support, particularly for men, in how they're emotionally feeling and addressing these sort of issues. Absolutely shocking what I watched. Cried watching it. Yeah. Then spoke to my mum, and she started me off again. Yeah, I know. It was heartbreaking. Afternoon, Cole. Nice to see you. Not seen the interview as yet, but have it saved. By what Kate said, sounds like you went through a few things. A few people I know went through, and that's the most shocking thing, Wayne. I've been talking to so many different people this morning, and everybody has gone through something in their life, or is struggling, or has struggled with some sort of mental health issue throughout their life. And it's frightening because you talk to these people every day and you don't really know all these things about them, particularly now with social media, because obviously we've all got friends that we've never met face to face, but even people you've known for years, all of a sudden you find out that they suffered abuse, or they were a victim of violence, or they had an addiction, and it's quite frightening really how little it's spoken about. I spoke to somebody this morning who told me they were sexually abused by their mum for 10 years when they were younger, which shocked me to the core. I have a friend who was emotionally abused by her family, and that has actually triggered fibromyalgia. What I get, she's got trauma-based fibromyalgia. So I think it's so important that words are probably the worst weapons there is, because they play on your mind over and over. And I think we've got to be so careful what we say. You see people on social media slagging other people off. I mean, you've only got to look at Caroline Flack, for instance, who committed suicide. And this hounding of celebrities as though we've got the right to judge them because they're famous. And it's terrible. I mean, I get judged. I've got what's classed as an invisible illness, fibromyalgia, because there's no real sign that I've got fibromyalgia. I've got a disabled badge, and I see people in wheelchairs looking at me funny, but that's just water off a duck's back. But other people, everyone takes things differently. And I suppose the message is to be kind to each other and try and stop this hatred. You know, Twitter at times can be a cesspool for absolute toxic negativity and hatred towards other people, and it's just absurd and totally immoral in my opinion. Jim says, never been a lover of booing players. No, I get that. It's not nice. This is spot on. It's Cole. Words can cut deeper than any knife can. Yeah, they really can. And once you've said them, you can't take them back. You can't ever take them back. So even if you say sorry, you've already said them. And my view is, if someone says something really nasty to you and then says sorry, in the back of their mind, they must have kind of been thinking it, else why would they say it? So words are so dangerous. I'm not here to give a sermon. Please don't think I'm here preaching. I just think it needs to be addressed. You know, I was reading up and no, not that. Sorry, I put the wrong thing up. I'm going to save that for later. I was reading about the 10 footballers that are most prominent in the media that have suffered from mental health issues. Tony Adams, Clark Carlisle, Iniesta, Jesse Lingard, Christian Pulisic, Tyrone Mings, Buffon, Danny Rose, Nazario, and Michael Carrick came up. We all know Gaz has had his problems with addiction. You know, I heard today that the media, the Sun, were actually putting bottles of alcohol on Gazza's doorstep with notes on them when he was battling alcoholism, which is abhorrent. Just I can't find words to say how I feel about that. So yeah, it's something I'm extremely passionate about, mental health awareness. So I thought it was right that we did this show. Afternoon, Chris. I do hope you're well. We act as though players are ours because they belong to our club, where we couldn't be further from the truth. Exactly that. I watched it just now. I know a lot of what he's going through. It really resonated with me, Kate, as most of us are hurting inside, but we bottle things up. Of course we do. I'm guilty of it. I know Jim's guilty of it. My son at 16 has been doing it for years. We laugh because if we don't laugh, we're going to cry. And that's just how it is. How many times have someone said to you, "You're all right," and you go, "Yeah, I'm fine," and inside you're breaking. You know what I mean? It's awful. That's why I try not to judge anyone, because we don't know what the person's going through. Look at the End on Billy situation. I find it so hard to people slagging him off. Yeah, and calling him fat. And as someone said this morning, this guy, I'll tell you who it was Jacob on United Spurs of America last night. He said this guy is a highly trained athlete. Yes, he's big, but I bet he's got less body fat than all of us, you know. And yeah, words, you don't know what it's doing to that player. But we're all guilty of it, don't get me wrong. Like I say, I was absolutely adamant that Dele Alli was lazy and that he was only interested in his clothing line. And we're all quick to judge. You know, I hear people on TalkSport slagging off here, there and everywhere different players, but you never, ever know what is going on behind closed doors and how they're feeling inside. I'm going to touch briefly on our story, mine and Jim's. I have suffered with mental health since my mum and dad divorced I was 11, so 89. Then I was with an abusive guy who used to tell me I was fat, and I was tiny. I mean, I was a size 8 and my clothes used to fall off me. And bearing in mind I'm 5'9", I was tiny. So I started to suffer with bulimia. And I still get I've still got severe anxiety disorder, which I take medication for. I get horrendous panic attacks. I get very depressed some days. Luckily, I've got my husband, but there's so many people out there that haven't got anyone. So I'm incredibly blessed in that respect. I asked Jim to actually come on the channel because he is the most inspirational person I've ever met in my life. But he didn't want to, and I can completely understand that. I've got the utmost respect for him for that. I really have. But he didn't say I could talk about it. Well, Jim was abused physically by his mum, mainly his dad, but his mum and his dad, for all of his young childhood. He's got, when I say he's covered in scars, I mean he's covered, and he's had pretty much every bone in his body broken by his father. He was taught if someone hits you, you whack them harder. And if you want something, you fight physically. So he ended up in trouble with the law. He was lucky he got a job working as a bodyguard for the Saudi royals, which I've spoke about before, Michael Jackson, and lived this amazing life, made a hell of a lot of money, and then came back and was trying to find his place back in the world, I suppose. He was in an unhappy marriage. He was suddenly not working. He was around his wife a lot more, and he actually developed a horrendously serious cocaine habit, which eventually used up all of his money that he'd made over the years. Now, when I met Jim, he was really in the midst of his addiction, and I was in the midst of my bulimia, and we met at Tottenham. And I truly believe the stars aligned, and we came together to help each other for that reason, because he's helped me massively. Don't get me wrong, it was hard, so difficult at times, but I believe I helped him as well. I don't take any credit for what he's done and how he's turned his life around, because to me it takes somebody super strong to do that. But we had all sorts of things happen. We moved away so he could try and change his life. He still was struggling. we lost our first baby when I miscarried, and then I fell pregnant again. He was still drinking heavily. He was still taking drugs. And I just said to him, I just can't do this anymore. I can't do it. You know, I've moved away from all my family, all my friends, to a county I'd never even visited, and I can't do it. And he flushed all his drugs away through every bit of alcohol down the sink in our house and said, that's it, I'll stop. And to this day, he's never, ever touched anything since. Not drugs. He doesn't drink. He's turned his life completely around. And when I hear I was abused, so I became the abuser, Jim is the absolute opposite of that. He is, I was abused, so I will make sure my son never feels any sort of pain, or he's always knows that he's in a safe space. And I can't respect him any more than I do. He literally is my hero. I'm getting emotional because I think for someone to turn their life around like that is unbelievable. But if you met him now, you'd never know it. And he would never take credit for it. He always says, oh, Kate was there for me. Kate was there for me, blah, blah, blah. But see, look, without Kate, I would be dead. The doctors told him if he didn't stop, he'd be dead in 6 months. It was that bad. But this is what I mean. No one would have known that. And the thing was, the people he had round him, as soon as the money went, they turned their back. So we went through it together, and we've come out the other side, and we couldn't be happier. We'd lost everything, and then we built ourselves back up, because that's what you do. But yeah, so I've never shared, we've never shared that with anybody, but I did ask him if it was all right to share it, because I thought it was quite appropriate, because he's amazing. He is absolutely amazing. And I take my hat off to anyone. I mean, people say, oh, he's a druggie or whatever. Addiction is a disease. I have the utmost sympathy for anybody that is addicted to drink, drugs, gambling, because it is a disease. You can't control it. You really can't. And so to hear Dele talk about his addiction to sleeping tablets, I mean, I saw someone write something about him saying that they were sick of the Sympathy Dele show. And I just thought, you're everything that's wrong with modern day society. This guy has put his heart on the line, and he's explained exactly what he's gone through in his life. And he has come out the other side. He checked himself into rehab, and he's come out the other side stronger. He feels great. He's got his passion back for football. That man deserves more respect than anybody. Do you know what I mean? It's so easy to use it as an excuse, you know. Oh, I was abused, so I became the abuser. Oh, I was addicted to drugs, so I stole, or anything like that. But to actually face up to your demons and turn your life around, to me, that's one of the greatest things you can do. And I have absolutely nothing but the highest respect for him. Let's have a quick look at the chat. Love to all you guys. Big up, Ben. Big loves to you. Wish I could have one of your coffees. Big up, Jim. Jim and Kate. Yeah, sending love, Chris. Without Kate, I would be dead. Bless him. Oh, I feel for you and Jim. You found each other, and that's so beautiful. Well done to you both. Much love. Elliot's fine. It's life. It's made me the man I am today. We could not be happier. We are very lucky people. We really are. You know, like I say, this isn't a sob story, and this isn't me telling my life story either, because I'm sure nobody's actually really that interested in me or Jim. I just thought I would put my own personal perspective on it. Sometimes people find it hard to talk. And, you know, I read today that 1 in 2 children will face violence in their life. 1 in 2. I mean, it's just, I think we don't turn a blind eye to it, not at all. But I don't think anyone really realizes how severe this problem is. And yeah, I've just got so much respect for Dele for his interview. I did approach a mental health expert who runs a website called Andy's Man Club, and it's particularly for men who suffer with mental health problems, or just when they've got issues at home, or they can go there. There's meetings, or they can go and can contact them online, and they've promised they will come onto my show. So I will be booking them in just to get a perspective on what they think. It was just a bit short notice for today. Bravo for saying your feelings, and my hubby's addicted to gambling. We lost 2 houses from it, but I stood by him because I love him dearly. Oh, Ellie, bless your heart. Is he still gambling, or has he had help for it? They do say behind every man is a better woman, and I think it works the other way as well. If Jim hadn't been there for me, I might still have been in that abusive relationship. I don't know. And if I hadn't been there for Jim, he might not be here. I don't know. But everybody, you meet everyone for a reason. I truly believe that. If the universe introduces you to someone, it's for a reason. So I believe I was introduced to Ellie and Mia and Dermot and Philip and lovely Chris met at football. All of you guys, Dave Harris, for a reason. And I feel like I've made a really fantastic group of friends. And the Tottenham family, they really stick together. I was listening to people talking this morning, and the way the other Tottenham fans were responding and giving their support is lovely to see, because that's what we need. And it's some people have got nobody else, let's be honest. But so that big up Kate Jim, so brave. Bless you. I don't think it's brave. It's just I loved him and he loved me. And if you love someone, you just find a way through. Ellie, good on you. That's a proper wife. Love you for that. It's easy to walk away. Yep, that's so true. Chris, thank you for the mention. I'm blessed for you too. Yeah, I mean, like I say, there's so many. I could be all day just mentioning people. But it shocked me when I saw every single person pretty much had or is suffering or has suffered with a mental health issue or an addiction of some sort due to some trauma from their past. And I don't think people open up enough and speak up. And I understand, please don't think I don't understand. I know for some people they can't open up, and I respect that massively. I've got a friend who puts all her trauma in a box and stores it in her head, and that's where it stays because she can't cope with it opening up. Although she has started having counselling and it's massively helped. It's massively cleared her headspace. But I do get it if you can't open up. What I want to make sure is that if you can't open up, that's fine. But don't ever feel like you're on your own, because everybody has been through or is going through something, and there's always someone to talk to. Whether you want to come on here and talk, or you want to ring a helpline or your doctor, or don't ever feel like you're on your own, because there's always someone there. Ellie's, but Spurs made it all happen, and the reason we bond is not just Spurs. They are a catalyst, and we love our club, and we make such great friendships. That's so true. Not only Spurs fans, Kate, there were other fans in Purchase Stream as well. They were all good apart from one small person. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to suggest it was just Spurs fans. Of course I didn't. People from every walk of life, every club they follow, every job, from people sweeping the roads to people who are executive directors. Everybody's fighting their own battle. So the important thing is to be kind and talk about it. Don't bottle it up. If you can. If you can't, then that's fine. I was talking to a friend of mine today who's one of who's involved with Tottenham. I'm not going to mention names, but like I say, he told me he'd suffered sexual abuse for 10 years. He'd become an alcoholic. He'd lost his the death of his children. Things I'd never believed. And I was talking on the phone and I was in tears nearly, because you just don't know. And that's me. I will always put on a smile and a joke, because that's just who I am. And I think that's the defense mechanism so many people use, men, women, football players because they don't want the world to see what's inside. You know, imagine being Dele Alli and seeing on the front page of the paper that he's partying, that he's a waster, that he's lazy, that he's this, that he's that. I mean, I don't know how I'd cope with that. I'm a very insecure person anyway. So to see those headlines must have been soul destroying because we all know what an absolute talent he is. So, yeah, I thought it was a fantastic interview, extremely moving. I mean, even Gary Neville had a tear. I just found it really quite sad, but also sweet that he still did those little giggles as that because he was covering it up. I mean, I always thought Dele and Sonny were the jokers of the pack. Now we kind of know why. Chris has put, to this day I'm a sufferer of mental health. Yeah, me too, Chris. But you know, I told you I'm always on the end of the phone if you ever need a chat. Stuart Wheeler, hi Stuart. Boy, I've just finished watching the video. Gary Neville did such a good job of just letting Dele speak and clearly did not know. No, that's absolutely right. He did not know. You could see the shock in his face. And I thought Gary Neville handled it fantastic. It's probably the best thing Gary Neville's ever done. And like I say, it's one of the most candid, honest interviews I've ever seen. And he's such a young man. I mean, he's only 27. And what he's gone through in his life and the way he spoke about it so eloquently was just, it was heart-wrenching to watch. It really was heart-wrenching. And I think every single person that watched it, or anyone with a heart anyway, will take something from it and will be able to relate to it in some way. Dermot, up and beat them demons because we're all strong. We have love in our hearts and together we'll get behind you, Dele. Come on, you Spurs. Yeah, I mean, how wonderful would it be for Dele to come back, resurrect his career? Can you imagine what an absolutely wonderful story that would be? I'd love nothing more than to see him in the Premier League, particularly at Tottenham. But what a player. I mean, come on. What a talent and what a nice guy. And he's just one of these guys that needs a break. Everybody needs a break. Everybody needs a second chance. I know people say, oh, they've had so many chances. No, this is a disease he was suffering from. He was addicted to medication that was helping him numb the pain of his childhood. And I do think he's been judged harshly by me included, by fans, media, other football pundits. I mean, it's shocking, really. It is shocking. I think back to Princess Diana and how she was absolutely hounded by the media. And Caroline Flack ended up taking her own life. Something has got to be done. This putrid hatred that we see in the world is just totally unnecessary and revolting, and everything that's wrong with this society at the moment, in my opinion. Stuart has put, hi Jim, Dermot and Chris, hope you're well. Wayne Bonner, take strength from darkness. The darkest days are a long path that hold a light at the end. That's very true. Jim always said to me, you never know what's around the corner, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I used to laugh because I had severe postnatal depression after I had William. And it's so true. Something always comes up. There's always good. When it stands to reason. When there's lots of bad, it's got to turn to good at some time or another. That's just how life works. It's like when I said the law of averages states Tottenham have got to win something eventually. Everything has to turn around. So, yeah, definitely keep the faith. Hi, Kel. Nice to see you in chat. Hope you're well. Elias, hi, Kate. Glad to see you too. Can we now give Tanguy a chance? He's obviously suffered some sort of trauma, not comparing. Yeah, I think all this hatred towards Tanguy and all this horrendous abuse about his weight, fat shaming. If it was going on against a woman, there would be an outcry. It seems to be accepted. It seems to be accepted because it's to a man, and that's not fair. You've got to be fair here. Dermot said, I've missed his comment. What did I miss? I'm just scrolling up, Dermot, to see what you said, lovey. Sorry, I went off on a tangent talking about mine and Jim's struggles. I missed it completely. Yeah, I can't see it. I saw you say about your demons. I'm sorry if I missed it. Wayne has put, hi there, Stuart. Hope I got the name right. I'm good, thanks. How are you? Yet I did. Do you know what, Stuart? I did see you was on really early. I thought, oh, have I got the time wrong? But yeah, you was up with the larks, saying hello to me way before I even came online. So I did notice that. Sorry. Just messaging Mia because I'm going to get her on in a minute with her take on what's gone on with the Dele interview. Kate, I'm pissed off with Spurs because they must have had an idea, Dele. Yeah, this was something I was actually going to say. Did Spurs turn their back on him, do you think? There was obviously no support there from Spurs. They've just shifted him out to be somebody else's problem. And if that's the case, then that is absolutely abhorrent from our team. Absolutely disgusting. Because he obviously was crying out for some sort of support and we just shipped him off to Everton on loan. That don't sit well with me at all. Not at all. Ellie's put, Dele can revive his career. I'm sure he's a talented footballer, beat those demons, and he can resurrect those wonderful days when we were all singing, we've got Ali. Yeah. Oh, I'd love to see him back. Wayne has put, was football merely a distraction for Dele rather than a career? I know folk who have found distractions from all the crap they go through and put up with. Possibly, but I saw in his eyes, he looks like he's got that hunger back. I don't know. I think maybe the drugs were a distraction from the trauma, but I'm not sure if the football was a distraction or not. I'm not sure. I don't know what anyone else thinks. Wayne's put, I didn't even know about the interview till Mia did a stream. Yeah, Mia's going to be on in a minute. She did a brilliant stream this morning about it. I think it's something we're all very passionate about. So yeah, I do. I think it's something we're very, very passionate about because it's such a problem in modern day society, this mental health business. And I don't think it's talked about enough. I don't think it's handled properly. And so, yeah, I think it's important that everyone discusses this, which is why I changed my show schedule for today. Elias, everyone needs compassion. I grew up in Malaysia as a refugee and faced loads of abuse and physical threats because of no access to legal aid. If not for good people in my life too, I would be bad. Wow, that's an inspiring story as well, Elias. And it just shows you everybody needs something good in their life. Like Dele said, his parents were sent from God. That's how I feel about Jim. Everyone needs to have someone. And if you haven't got someone or you're not close to your family, always know there's other people. The Spurs community are wonderful. And there's some good people on Twitter. There's all these institutions that can help. Institutions, is that the right word? No, not institute. There's all these somethings that can help. I don't know what the word is. I can't think. Dermot, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I can't find it. Jim, I think he lost the love of the club once Mourinho came in and said them things to him. I know he said Mourinho said sorry. Yeah, that was disgusting. He humiliated him completely in that changing room. Elias, I'm still a mess, I think, but getting better and better with God's grace and sincere love of individuals. Yep, every day is a chance to turn it all around. Kelly's put, mental health should be thought of the same as physical health. Of course it should, and it's not. And if it was, I think these sort of situations with Dele wouldn't happen because people would be more open to speaking about these things. It's still considered quite taboo. You know, all these people that say, oh, man up and all this. No, that's not how it is anymore. But anyway, before I carry on rambling, oh, hang on, Elias. As a guy, sometimes we hear that put it behind, chin up, don't be an emo or suck it up. I think men need spaces. Yeah, this is why I really, really recommend this Andy's Man Club. They're fantastic. And they will be coming on hopefully next week to talk about what they do, but they are wonderful. They're purely for men who suffer with mental health, addiction, just any issues. And you can either go to a meeting, you can talk to them on the phone. Yeah, so this is a great point. I think mental health should be added to the national curriculum. What a fantastic point. Yeah, I believe that is a fantastic suggestion. Chris, may I applaud my parents, family, friends, and everyone who work in the NHS in the mental health sector. Yeah, Stuart, I think with Dele, the problem is that he was dealing or not dealing with it himself. All Spurs knew that this football had gone downhill. You'd think, yeah, if he'd have opened up, yeah, but there should be experts at these at football clubs like Tottenham that can see it, that can see that this is happening. You know, people don't just become a bad player overnight. There were signs there. They should have looked into it rather than just labelling him as a problem and shipping him off somewhere else. Mental health, people who suffer from autism and ADHD, I'm grateful to the people I have around me who suffer abuse and my demons who drink, but I'm so grateful for you, the family I have. Yeah, Derm has suffered terribly with his mental health and his demons. I know he won't mind me saying, I'm not going to say too much, not my place, but he's come out the other side, another truly inspirational gentleman. At the end of the day, the FA needs to tell the clubs they have to put in place a mental health support. Yep, I agree completely. It's who you meet at the right time. The people I know, we never knew each other, but yet we met and I've become reliant to them as it should be. Mysterious ways. Yep, like I say, I believe you meet everyone for a reason and at the right time. That is why I believe Jim and I got together and met at exactly that time. Putting my differences aside, big up to Dermot and THFC for dealing with that. You're a champion. Yeah, absolutely agree. My family I found from Spurs I love very much, Philip, Mia, Ellie and the Harris and my flat cap army. I'll ignore the fact you didn't put me in there, Derm. I'll overlook that. Big up, Derm. I totally agree, Kate. Every club should have a club welfare officer. We had one at our junior football club. Oh, okay. I am going to invite Mia now into the chat or into the room. Can you hear us, Mia?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What do you make of? Thanks for coming on, by the way. Sorry.
No
what do you make of this Dele Alli interview that happened this morning or last night?
God, so many things, Kate. Do you know what? God, I don't know what order I'm going to go in, but do you know what? For me, it starts when kids are young. I feel like that not enough is done because he suffered abuse and he obviously got onto a bad path. We don't have enough for our youngsters to basically help them, like a youth centre where they can go to and speak to some elders who maybe can to guide them on a different path because they haven't got that family, because family is so important when you're dealing with such pressure like what Dele Alli would have been suffering, because at the end of the day, being a footballer is a very pressurised situation, and people who say, oh well, they're getting paid X amount, do you know what? X amount does not matter. They're still a person. They're a human being. And we should always think of that first. So when it was all going on with the booing of Sanchez, I stood up and said, no, I don't believe we should be doing this. I don't like it. It makes me feel weird. It's not going to get a player to do better. And I don't like that feeling, the look on their faces. They're people at the end of the day, that somebody's child, that somebody's husband or boyfriend, somebody's brother, somebody, you know, that's how I view them as humans. And I just don't think enough is done. I'm with you on the club. I feel like the club should have a policy where they've got people there. If people want to talk, they should have all the backup. But also, do you know what the club should do? They should look into somebody a little bit more, maybe do a bit of background check about their family. And if they haven't got the support, make sure you keep offering them that support. So they've got always the offer of having that support.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel so strong. I feel so strongly about this. Honestly, really, I do, because I feel like that people, the way we treat people nowadays is that we just dismiss the comments that we make, the things that we say, when actually, truly, these people, you don't know what people are going through. And especially, like I say, people who say, oh, well, they earn X amount, criticise their footballing techniques, football, how they play football, yes. But do you know one thing he did say, how much for support that Eric Dyer was to him. Now, do you know what? People get onto that guy's back and they say some horrific things. I don't personally. I say he's not good enough for us, he needs to go. But people say some horrific things about him. But you know what? He's a good guy because he stood by his friend and he obviously always wanted to support his friend. And I think that says a lot about him as a person. Same with Harry Kane. He said Sonny. He said a few of the people there, you know.
Yeah, agreed. We've got a question here. What happens when the families that cause the abuse and it's the child that can't speak out?
Yeah, the thing is, obviously, you wouldn't go. I wouldn't say that you with families, obviously, if you've got a family that's abusive, and that's what I'm saying, they should always have that support there for the players, for children, for people. That's why I said a youth centre. You should
Yeah.
have youth centres, because I grew up in an area, as you know, Kate, around where we lived, where I used to live, and used to live, and it's got worse and worse, and it's become more inner London, like a bit more like inner London, moving closer. And there's kids there who are very troubled. They're out running the streets late at night because they haven't got guidance. They haven't got people to maybe tell them not to do those things. Because the things that happened to Dele, being held over a bridge, upside down over a bridge when he was 11 years old, dealing D words, because YouTube, dealing those D words at 8 years old, taking them, went smoking and taking them when he was very young. All of that, when you're young and your brain is developing, affects your brain. It affects you, the way that you feel, the way that you are, because of them. They adjust the way your brain grows and develops, and that's where we need to nip it in the bud before they get to that point. You know, they need to nip that in the bud and have a guidance, someone they can look to and be guided by, someone who's been in those situations, to teach children, look, there is another path you can take. And if there is abuse going on, that they've got people they can trust, that they can go to and say, oh, this is happening at home. So they've got trusted people around them if they are having problems at home, because some of the family units, they're broken up and they don't have a good, strong family connections. And that affects kids really, like, a lot. It really does.
Yeah, I agree. Just a chance to bring in Ashmatic from Southview Common U Spurs. Hi, Ash. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on, first of all, Kate.
That's all right. Thanks for coming. Just want to get your views on the Dele interview that was released today and what you thought.
It stirred up a lot of strong emotions for myself. I felt very indifferent at first, because you see the headlines, and I'll be honest, I was like one of those fans, and I was like a bit standoffish at first. Like, here we go, sympathy vote. We've heard it all before, so straight away I was very defensive when I saw the documentary, given like the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But what struck me about the opening few minutes was he was saying he didn't want people to feel sorry for him. And that struck a big chord with me, because I'm not going to get personal, but like, as men, we don't really open up. And the reason is we think we can do it all ourselves. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the way we've been brought up, or if it's a pride thing, if it's a cultural thing, but we just don't talk. And a lot of the time, it's easier to kind of just push it under the carpet and not deal with situations at hand. And he kept saying that throughout the interview. I don't want people to, feel sorry for me. That's not why I'm here. I think he was trying to own it as well. What happened, like, some of the things were his fault, and he didn't want it to be like a get out clause. He wanted people to understand that actually talking about these type of topics might help even one person. That's what he said. That's what struck out to me. Just if it helps one person, then his job is done. He doesn't really care what people say about him. People been talking all his career things about him, and actually it hurts. He's a human being, and we also forget that, as fans, that they are humans. And more importantly, he's a kid at that time when he came out. I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking about emotionally. Mm-hmm. Do you have your self-awareness at that age? Do you have awareness of others? And him keeping it to himself, he thinks that's the best way for him to deal with it. Yeah. And so that was the thing that really struck me at the interview. And when he spoke about getting sent to Africa, I've got family. So one of my cousins, he's half. I'm from Barbados, so both of my parents are from Barbados. But I've got a cousin. His dad's from Barbados and his mom's from Africa. And basically, his brother was on the roads doing madnesses, so they decided to send him to Africa. So this kid I grew up with, which was my cousin, he got sent to Africa around like 11, 10 years old. And then when he came back, he was completely different in terms of like cultural. The point I'm making, during that particular age, that's when you get developed.
Yeah.
So between the ages of 6, 8, and 11, when he was sent off, a lot of things would develop your character, how you see the world, how you are as a person. And so him getting sent to Africa and then him coming back and him not having discipline, even when he came back, that makes a lot of sense to me to see why he is the way he is and where his head is at now. And not everyone is good at talking. Not everyone's able to open up. It's not their strong suit. And so they keep things bottled in. And so you'll see certain things from people. And like he mentioned the whole lazy comment.
Yeah.
And people don't understand why he was the way he was. And that's what Mourinho labeled him as being lazy. And us as fans, we will label other players lazy and not understand and not think of the root cause of why they're lazy or why they're acting like the way they are, why they're not smiling and happy like other players, and having open positive body language.
Yeah.
There's something that's going on. There's something that's happened in their past that's basically resulted them in this particular manner. And that's the reason why I was happy that this came out at this particular time, because we've got a few players in our team and we're quick to say as a fan base, look at that person, they're lazy, they're this, they're that. We don't know their background, what's going on in their life, how they were raised, what has happened. And then on top of it, what I found really interesting was there was a podcast called the High Performance Podcast, and they interviewed Maurizio Pochettino, and he talks about getting players in, and when he gets that player, and a bit like Bielsa does as well, when he gets a player in, he doesn't just look at them on the footballing side. He said he forgets about football. He wants to know them as a person. And once you understand them as a person, you can understand the way they act, the way they see life, the way they react to certain situations, their behaviors. And basically that's what he alluded with Dele Alli. He said Dele Alli, he had a different upbringing to the rest of the players. And so he wanted to get into that player. He even speaks about Ndembele. Ndembele didn't come from an academy. He came from the streets. He came from France. So understanding the person, where they're coming from, how they are with other people, that's the reason. And when Pochettino was taken out of that team, Dele Alli mentions it. He said, that was like losing a father figure.
Yeah.
And I can understand the reason why that whole squad was young. There was no, like he said, there was no senior figure. They were all relatively young, because Gary Neville says, oh, wasn't there like an older person? No, there wasn't. Do you know what I mean? So they kind of relied on each other. And I heard Mia speak about, relationships and Eric Dyer and Harry Kane. It was interesting for him to speak about them, how they were honest with him, because he said he needed that. He didn't need a yes man all the time. He needed someone that was honest with him and said, look, you're doing this, but you're not saying it. And they had to have like real conversations. Do you know what I mean? And so for me, it was like a massive, massive eye opener for fans, because we are quick to judge. We're quick to point the finger and not try to see the other side, because at the end of the day, these guys are humans. They do have emotions. They do go through things that we're not privy to. Do you know what I mean? And some people, we'll never understand their world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Growing up maybe with a strict parent, or maybe not a strict parent, or having parents there, maybe not having parents there, how that affects that person's development, their growth. He mentions about having 10 men in the house, and that paints a massive picture for me.
Yeah, I know.
Let alone with just the alcohol situation, because like when you talk to most people that haven't watched the interview, they'll just talk about the sleeping pills. No, man, it's a lot more than the sleeping pill addiction that's going on there. Why is he taking the sleeping pills? Do you know what I mean? He exposed that. Lots of footballers take sleeping pills because of the high intensity and the adrenaline that, as a young man, you're trying to control your hormones, because your body's going for hormonal changes. all the way through your football career. It's not like you're just a teenager and then your hormones stop. No, you're constantly developing. Your body's grown into itself. I say Brian Hill, for example, grown into himself, understanding himself. And then your adrenaline needs to calm down along with your hormones. And so the sleeping pills, they're taking it. I imagine it's that deep. You have to take sleeping pills to do a normal job. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? It's not just that, Ash. Don't forget, he's emotionally probably was underdeveloped because he's never had that emotional support. And the way, obviously, he was brought up was, you know, the things that he did and saw when he was very young. Like, that is exposure at such a young age to such a lot of bad stuff. And he probably never, because he never had that emotional development, right? That's an important time when kids are young to make sure they evolve emotionally. They can express themselves. And you can sit down with them, you have conversations with kids if you're obviously a parent that are like that. But if your mum is doing what his mum was doing and he was running the streets like he was doing, he's obviously not going to develop emotionally like that, is he? You know what I mean? He's still going to be quite underdeveloped.
Just to add to that as well, I 100% agree with that. Just to add to that, I think that boys or men, we develop emotionally a little bit different to women, to girls. I think women's emotional intelligence develops a lot earlier, a lot more quicker. So I think there's a lot of men, they look like men, you know, from the outside, but emotionally intelligent. When you speak to them, you can see they're not quite there on that spectrum. They haven't got that understanding of themselves and others. They're not socially aware or adept, and they're quite scared to actually open up and be themselves. And he even said that, you know, just talking about it was massive. Like, he realized that he's not the only one going through it. He thought he was unique in that aspect where he's the only one dealing with this situation, and it can feel quite lonely that no one else understands your world. And this is why a lot of men, that suicide rate for men is really high because of that. They're not able to talk to anyone. They don't understand that there's help out there. And when, again, things are being written about him in the press, fans are getting on his back. Do you know what I mean? How is he dealing with that? At the same time, at 1 minute you're high, you're the top of the career, and then all of a sudden it all comes tumbling down. But as you said, Mia, you're talking about getting hung off a bridge. You're talking about smoking cigarettes, at 6 to 7 years old. You're talking about hiding drugs and transporting it. There's a lot of kids that go to there's loads of kids that go to, we call it country. That's what we call it. And from where I'm from, we say, the youngers are going to go to country. Or you speak to a guy, he's like, yeah, I'm in country. So a lot of the kids, that's normal for them. That they go and they smuggle the drugs for the olders. We call them the olders, the people that they're selling the drugs for. And because the parents aren't around, there's no, especially in my community, it's a thing where a lot of the kids, they don't have that positive role model unless it's a footballer or musician. You don't have like a person that you can look up to that's outside of that area, that's knowledgeable and that's educated and can show the kids that there's another way. You don't have to go down necessarily the football route or the music route. And so that's the reason why. Go on, Mia.
Sorry, yeah, but that's what I was going to say. But that's why I said about youth centres and that anymore, Ash, because then you could have people, elders that they could trust in it and guide them onto a different sort of path and show them and say, listen, this is the path, another path you can follow. You don't have to follow certain paths, but we don't have that. And a lot of the time we've let our youth down by not having these things. These things available for them to have.
It's a disparity between. It's disparity between, sorry, Kate, between the rich and the poor in black and white. So there's a class separation in the areas grew up, regardless if like one parent might be well off, but you're with the other parent that's not so well off. Do you know what I mean? Or even if you're like, for me, I'm in a house. I live in a house. When I grew up, I lived in a house, but my friends, they didn't. They lived in an estate. So I'm going to check my friend, one of my boys. They're in an estate. So then I'm a product of my own environment. If I'm surrounding myself around that particular environment, then that's going to be my world. It's not going to be a world where it's someone on my road that, you know, grew up on that in a different economical status. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you're Dele Alli or you're someone else and you're around that, and his mom's obviously I don't know the economical status with the parents of the mum. I don't know if she was well off or not. But the fact is, if she had 10 guys in her house regardless, he's trying to escape from that. He's trying to escape from that. And he's going to, the father's not around for whatever reason. And he's going to be around peers that are looking out for him, that he's spending time with. So they're doing this type of stuff. They're saying, "Raw, hold that for me, yeah? Cool, I'll give you this." Boom. Do you know what I'm saying? Man's going up country, doing whatnot, coming back. And he's thinking that's normal because, again, he don't want to come back to home where he got molested. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, of course you're going to run out. Of course you're going to be outside all the time. You don't want to go back to where the trauma is. You're going to be running from that. Whether you knew that consciously or subconsciously or unsubconsciously is another debate in itself. Because like nobody wants to be around that. You're going to run away. You're going to play football to get away from the trauma. You're going to hang out with your mates to get away from the trauma. Do you know what I mean? And that education at that time, how are you going to know as an 8-year-old to know like, oh, this isn't right. Maybe I need to do. And then who do you turn to as well? What's available? Do you know what I'm saying? And then as Mia was saying before, those things develop. That's a crucial age where you're being developed, and kids are getting groomed without realizing they're getting groomed because it's just fashion. Do you know what I'm saying? It's road. We call it the road. It is what it is. So like when you're on the road, you're doing whatever. People are showing off. They're getting money. And they're popular. So sometimes it's not even a popular thing. It's not even a money thing. It's a popular thing. You just want to be, you don't want to be picked on. You don't want to be bullied. So you're just you're following whatever. So you're not standing out and you're not being a victim. And I feel like with Ali, I felt like that. You know, he didn't want to be a victim. When he kept saying that, well, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. It's like, I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to, that's all I could hear.
Yeah. And
I totally got that. But yeah, it's so, it makes sense. And I think it was sad that the fact that Mourinho said that, you know, he apologized for calling him lazy, and that wasn't put in the documentary.
Yeah, that's shocking.
If the chairman or the club knew that and decided that they didn't want to put that in, I think they're at some fault as well. You know, you got to put the whole picture in, because now the media have got this narrative to run with. And then you're watching Sky Sports pundits talk about Dele, and then fans are watching that and we're being influenced. And we're seeing it on the pitch. You know, the pundits are talking about it. So it must be true. Do you know what I mean? And so there's always more to what's going on in front of you. And it just helps us all as fans. Like now, before I was like, oh, we need this transfer. Now I've taken a step back. And I'm like, raw, we all need to chill for a bit.
Yeah.
we were, everyone's so angry and that's why
I know.
Back and but actually, you know what? Like there's I think it was a great time. I think it was great timing, to be honest with you. It kind of like would level everyone out now as fans, especially us Spurs fans. We need this. And it's another thing where it gives you understanding, but gives you time and patience. That's what we need as a fan base. Time and patience, especially that we've got this new manager coming in, and just coming back to that whole Pochettino thing where he likes to understand where the players come from. I kind of get that from our new coach as well. I think that's why I kind of warmed to him, because he's a person that step back and look at things, and he's a thinker. And I like to think that if he's a man manager, if that makes sense, person, the people's person, that the next person that comes along, he's going to want to understand their world, understand their characteristics, understand their behaviors, and apply that into where they're going to play, what position they're going to play. Because I look at someone like, you've got two players, Eden Hazard, right, that used to play for Chelsea, Kevin De Bruyne, that used to play for Chelsea. Kevin De Bruyne has gone off and he's done well. Hazard's gone to Real Madrid and hasn't gone too well. But both were top players. Can't really compare the two, but they're two different players for two different reasons. Hazard, more of a street baller. He thrives under chaos. When there's loads of players around him, that's when he dribbles out, does a mazy run, and scores a goal. You can't really coach him to stick to like a particular structure. He likes to be free, you know, and he thrives under that. You get certain players that like that. Then you've got De Bruyne. giving him instruction, you give him the structure, and he can see the picture early, and he thrives. But
Yeah.
both players, are either them less right or less wrong? No, just work in different ways. And going back to understanding people's makeup, their personalities, the way they're raised, that can help in terms of football. Coming back to football, into football subjects now. So yeah, I just thought it was very interesting.
So how do we get this safeguarding within the club for players, and sort of how do we put in place sort of, I mean, I find it incredible there was no warning signs. You know, I know he was talking to the players, but obviously you don't become a bad player overnight, and his football really went downhill. So how do we deal with that as a club?
It's interesting because, you know, he said that he protected himself. Not protected himself. He kept a lot of things to himself. Like the family were crying. You saying he's fine. People would ask if he's okay. He said, I'm fine. And so how do you kind of navigate around that? But
Yeah.
I think when he spoke about Pochettino and the difference between him and Mourinho was that Poch, he said a lot of things were fake, a lot of things were false. And so with Poch, I think he sat down and spent the time and invested in the players a lot more off the field. Whereas I think Jose was a bit more Hollywood, I would say, by the sounds of it, because Dele, he said that his words, fake. That's what came out as. And I'm not saying that Jose was a bad man-to-man manager, because he got the best out of quite a few players. Do you know what I mean? But you can see that was a discord, and at that time, I think, I'm pretty sure the club probably has their own therapist. But I remember Sessegnon talking about when he went to Germany, like they were really good about having therapists, and he did a lot of therapy, and he spoke out about mental health issues and how important it was to him and how that helped him along. And so I think it's a thing where the club, they may have a therapist, who knows, but I think it's a thing where I feel like a lot of the players now, because it's been spoke about it, they will invest themselves in a therapist to help them get through the tougher times. Because I'm pretty sure they do have some type of sports psychologist there. But again, I think there's going to be a lot more emphasis on
I've just looked, and they do have.
They do.
Yeah, they do have a head of safeguarding and welfare officer, at Tottenham. But I'm not quite sure what happened there. I mean, what do you think, Mia? How do we stop these sort of things happening?
But what Ashmatic said is very important is that Dele didn't want to. He said that the only time he was going to be ready to do this and open up was when he was ready. So unfortunately, he said he used to come into training and put a smile on his face, even if things weren't okay. He said he was winning he was losing the battle, but winning the fight, because he would basically say, "I'm okay," put a smile on his face. And the problem is if somebody isn't telling you what they're actually feeling, it's very hard to try and decipher. Sorry about the dog. It's hard to decipher what they're actually feeling, isn't it? So it's so hard. It's the only thing I can say is if it's there and it's on offer, you have to keep reminding players that is on offer. And like I said, maybe try and do more background checks into them and check on them, and try and maybe check on the ones that you feel need it a bit more. Maybe try and get that support indirectly in place for them, and say, get them to try and open up and maybe talk. So maybe they're more feel like they can talk to someone that they can trust. But it's hard. But I feel like he trusted Poch. But obviously, maybe he felt closed off with Mourinho because he could see the way Mourinho was. So he shut down and closed off. And that's what a lot of people do, isn't it? They close up and they close off. If you don't trust someone, that's it. You shut down. And maybe that's what he did. He just shut it all down, because he was like, no, I can't get open with this guy. I'm not going to do it. So that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I was saying earlier, Patrice Evra is campaigning to stop this toxic masculinity symbol, because he was a victim of sexual abuse and he suffered with mental health. Do you think ex-players like Graham Souness and Roy Keane, who call the players babies and tell them to man up, are part of the problem?
I personally think it's the way they're raised, and it's from a different generation. And I think now there's more knowledge and understanding. Like even me, myself, I said to you off camera, I said, I don't like to put labels on things because from the way I've been raised, if you've been labeled like, well, how I feel about it, you feel like you're boxed in. You can never break through that barrier. And I think there's a fine line between tough love and like, yeah, that supportive love. That, you know, tough love is obviously described as masculine. Do you know what I mean? And everyone needs it from time to time. You kind of need that kind of reality check sometimes to help you kind of get a kick up the butt is what they call it. Sometimes you need that, but then the other side, you do need that feminine side, and I hate to say masculine feminine, but you need that other side, that nurturing, the arm around the shoulder. Harry Redknapp had it. He did it very well, and he got the best out of players a lot of the time. He wasn't always the best tactically, but he knew how to talk to players, how to get the best out of them. And I think it comes down to the environment, creating an environment where players are comfortable, and like Mia was saying, to keep reminding them, because at that time you're not ready. You know, not always ready. You might ask me Kate, how are you feeling today? But then tomorrow you might feel down in the dumps. Do you know what I mean? But I never asked you. Do you know what I mean? How are you today? Do you know what I mean? Emotions come in and out all the time. We always change how we feel day to day. But I think with those lads, Roy Keane, and they're just a product of their environment. That's how they've been raised. That's what they know. That's how they've been taught. And they thought it didn't do them any harm, you know? And at the end of the day, like, you don't want to be a victim. Do you know what I mean? I think, like, that's where that comes from. That's where it stems from. They don't, like, when you're trying to raise up people, you don't want them to be too soft, you know, because the world's quite hard. You look at social media. I was reading a lot of comments on social media about Dele Alli on some pages. And a lot of them were saying, "Raw, he's capping," meaning that he's lying. Oh, he's talking cap, lies. He's lying. He's lying. And he's like, do you know what I mean? Oh, who hasn't sold drugs, or who hasn't dealt with that? So what? Boo hoo. Doesn't stop you from being a rubbish player, or do you know what I mean? Oh, he's talking rubbish. He's got money. Like, so even though this has come out, there's still people that are quite ignorant to it and thinking, oh, man up. Do you know what I mean? So unfortunately, you are going to get characters like that because that's how they've been raised. They don't have the understanding of, or they don't have the open-mindedness, because that's what it's about. It's about being open-minded, and they don't have that empathy where you can see someone else. You can put yourself in someone else's shoes, and you can say, you know what, let me take the fan hat off for a second, and let me be diplomatic and kind of see where this person's coming at, because obviously I don't understand the world. Let me understand it a little bit more. But if you come from that world, even more so, you can understand it, and maybe should be more sympathetic, because you know how hard it is. And for men, especially men, young boys, it's like, it's not cool. So I think that's where I think maybe Keane never had that love. Do you know what I mean? He never had that person say, "Nah, you know what, Keane, it's all right." You know, if he shed a tear, it's normal, you know?
Do you know what else it is, right? For when you've got, so say me, I've got my two boys. For me, it's about being like, when I tell them, when I am a bit strict with them, it comes from a place of love, innit? And if you've got people who tell you from a place of love, you're more likely to go, okay, like, you sort of understand it, innit? If you're being a bit harsh sometimes, and it seems a bit harsh, it's coming from a place of love because you love them and you're telling them. And that's what the problem is. Sometimes it's harsh from a place where you're a bit like, hold up, like, where's this coming from? And people get a bit kind of like about it. But if it comes from someone, see, like, if a Poch told Daddy something, I don't think he would take it to heart as much, because he knows that Poch, because Poch cared about him, he got to know him as a person. But if someone's just instantly judgmental on you and judges you and starts telling you to man up and whatever, you're going to be like, yo, what's going on here? Hold up a second, what are you talking to me like that for? Like, and again, you shut down, innit? You shut down, and you don't want to listen to that person. You're just like, who the hell are they telling me to do, like, to man up or whatever? So it's got to be that real balance. If you care about someone and you are a bit tough with them, then that's cool, because you're like I say, you're coming from a place of love because you care about that person. And I think that makes a difference. For someone like Dele, he wants to feel that he's cared for. So even if someone tells him stuff like his friends did, like Kane did, like Eric Dyer did, it came from a place of love because they cared about him, and they probably did say to them, yeah, I know, innit, like, I've not been doing the right thing, or whatever he said to them, because he knows they're not being unfairly harsh with him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just talking about this toxic masculinity, I mean, it's a completely different level. But when William was 8, that's my son, he was bullied really badly at school, and we changed his school a couple of times. And I decided in the end to homeschool him. But I remember a couple of people saying to me, well, that's just stupid. He's going to have to man up. I mean, he was 8 years old. And I said, well, I don't want him to man up and toughen up. Why should he have to man up and toughen up because other kids are being vile? And it's kind of this stigma that there has to be like an alpha male, you know, that men aren't allowed to show these emotions. I mean, I was with Jim for a long time before he opened up about his childhood to me, because I know these past traumas of people are hard to talk about. So, yeah, it's just this whole societal view that women are the kind of the weak sex and men have got to be this strong alpha male. And I can't believe in 2023 we're still in that place.
Yeah, I think, you know what it is as well. It's hard because as a parent, you just want what's best for your child.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad was hard on me and my brother because he didn't want us to grow up soft. That was his words.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want us to grow up. He was rough on us for a reason because he knew how hard it was going to be. So me, when kids tried to bully me, they got punched up. I'll be straight up because the way my dad raised me, he was so hard on man. It was like they didn't expect it because they thought because I'm quite calm and quiet that people should say, "Oh, that's switches. Like it's got a switch on them," but it's because like the way I was raised, and that's the reason why things manifested the way it manifested. But you just need that balance, I think, where you know. I think Pochettino, coming back to him, he actually mentions it in the podcast, in the High Performance podcast. Watch it if you haven't seen it. And he talks about, getting to know the players, out of football and knowing where they were at and knowing how they developed, their childhood backgrounds, etc. But then he also talks about the professionalism where he was able to separate the two. And so the players respected him and they understood if they were dropped, it was for footballing reasons. It wasn't never a personal thing. And so I think that's where people need to, or not just people, we just need to remember, you can be both. You can be strong, but at the same time, you can have a loving hand. Do you know what I mean? You can do the best of both. And that's what helps a development in a person, that they can understand why you're being so hard on them, why you're being, without even being physical, because, you can strike fear into someone without even lifting a finger. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So you can get that discipline from someone. And at the same time, you can show a lot of love just by paying people attention and just listening. If you just listen to someone, you get a lot out of that person just by hearing their thoughts, hearing how they think, where they're coming from. And I think that's what was missing for our last, couple managers. And coming back to the toxic masculinity point, it's again, not just ignorance, but again, the way they view the world, as you said, Kate, it shows a level of weakness. If you're soft on someone, if you're soft on them, you're showing weakness. Do you know what I mean? People are often, told to talk up, but talk up in a way where you're, not necessarily aggressive, but you're coming across
standing up for yourself.
You stand up, but you stand up for yourself. So you just need the two. The two need to marry. You need to align, and both sides need to be understood. Like, we understand why they're being super protective. Why Roy Keane and Souness is coming out with like, come on, like, just get on with it, because that's the way they were raised. And they thought it didn't do them any harm. Do you know what I mean? But I bet if you had a one-to-one with them, they might have had trauma themselves, and that's the reason why they're the way they are. Because that generation, I feel like that was the norm. That's how it was. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was none of this. Mental health is relatively new, from what I understand. Like, there was no mental health talked about in that. There might be mental health, but there was no label. There was no debate. There was no conversation about it. And even like men talking like on a platform like this, back in the day, I would have been called a chatty patty. What? Talking like a woman, talking. That's not something us men do.
Chatty patty.
Talking. Yeah, that's what we call it, chatty patty. When you just talk people's business. And you just and that's like what girls do. They like sit around the
Yeah.
table and they meow, 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 meow. So that's the kind of term I'm coming up with. Like men don't sit around and just talk meow, 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 meow. That's unmanly. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So me talking about men's emotions, that's not a masculine trait. Do you understand? So we like I could get labeled that right. Actually, quite feminine because of that, because he's talking about all these particular topics, and that's why I have to respect. I have to give it to Dele, because it's not easy coming out and talking about just being open and being frank and saying what it was, even crying. Because for a man to cry, but it's not easy for a man to shed a tear. You know what I'm saying? We're taught not to cry. I'm pretty sure Jim will say like it would be hard to get Jim to tears.
You know what I mean? Also, what I was going to say, Ash, is like, like in certain communities, and it's even more so, in it. Like I feel like that certain communities, it is more of a like man up in it. You can't cry like when you're hanging around all around with the boys, in it. That's not what you do, in it. You just chat, and you don't talk about feelings. You know what I mean? Like that's like what they would say in the old days is something probably that you would never say now, but it's like what you doing, man? Why are you talking about your feelings? Like, and that comes from as well a place of where, like you say, you've been brought up in a certain way, and your dad's never expressed their things. Like my dad is married, and he never cuddles his mum. Like her son never cuddles. They never cuddle. He never cuddles his sons, and then his dad never cuddled him. So that was just obviously something that he learned, that he never got cuddled by his dad, innit? That's not a thing we do, innit? Like no, we don't cuddle boys, even if it is your family. But that's a taught thing. That's something that gets taught, and that's the problem, innit?
Nail on the head. So like that's without even getting personal, like just hit the nail on the head. Do you know what I'm saying? So the hugging thing, the kissing thing, the I love you thing, like it goes as deep as that. Like and Kate,
I know, innit?
All the hugs and kiss, that for a lot of guys, that is missed out. We don't get hugs, we don't get kisses.
Really?
I love you, that kind of I love you, and that's why like growing up now, you carry it into a relationship where you find it hard to even express that to your spouse. Do you know what I mean? You say it to your child, but like even to your spouse, you might struggle, and people don't understand. Oh, but why can't you just say it? Like, do you know what I'm saying? But because like the society we've been growing up in, like I've come from like a society. I'll talk about me personally just a little bit. So I've come from like a Christian background and a Caribbean background, and there was a lot of homophobia, right? So they would associate, hugging and kissing and loving a man-to-man thing. You can't do that, man-to-man. That's Solomon, you know what I mean? Sodom and Gomorrah. So it's that whole cultural thing. Again, this is why I said I respect Ali for doing what he did, because people don't even understand the cultural aspect, what he's going through. Imagine he's got one mom, half white, and one parent black. Like it's two different cultures in that. But then obviously he was raised, it was 12 or 13 when he was raised by his adopted family.
Yeah.
So he's even had to get all used to that as well. And then on top of it, the area he probably grew up in, he probably suffered some type of racism on top. There's a whole bag of things going on with Dele. A whole bag of things. So it's like what he spoke about in that 40-minute interview, we're not even touching the surface. Do you know what I'm saying? A few things, like he said, a couple, like people are going to clickbait couple things. Do you know what I mean? To kind of get the headlines over. It is what it is. Like he understands how it works. He doesn't hate the media, but at the same time, they're the ones that help paint the narrative. Yeah. But there's so much going on. So like the community that I'm in, like this, we're talking about it a lot more now. We're talking about it. It's coming up. Because we suffer from it. We're from the old world. Like it's crazy that obviously from a Caribbean side, like when we were enslaving, we were given Christianity, and so those values were, like I said before, very they were against certain things. So that's the reason why we're raised and we have a thought process that is quite old, you know what I mean? And not to say the rest of England that are quite ignorant towards certain things, they've got that same type of mentality as well. So it's not just in my culture. If you come outside of London, like, do you know what I'm saying? That's why you still see a lot of racism in football, or we still see a lot of ignorance in football, because they've been raised. It's a working class society. People aren't always going to go and educate themselves and mix with others because they're used to their communities. They're used to that, and they have their way of thinking. They're not able to look past that. And so, yeah, for me, it was like, big up Dele, bro. Big up Dele. But I saw the love he got from other footballers. They were hailing him up, love, heart emojis, all that, showing them like, ratings and that. So I really liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, man, I agree. Yeah,
that's really interesting. Sorry to hear that aspect from a male perspective from you, Ash, about not cuddling and not having. To me, that's alien, because I'm such a. I always cuddle everyone and tell them I love them, and my son's always grown up with me, and his dad's cuddling him. So for that to have been like, for people to not hug and kiss, and is completely alien to me.
Yeah, see, I'm like that, but I also understand it in it because, like I say, my stepmom, her son, his dad's Jamaican, and that's why I understand the cultural in it. We spoke about this before, Ash. Like, I know the cultural background of what they're like with that kind of thing, and I know the thought processes and why they do it, and like how they're very much not like that, and how it's affected. Because one of the boys, I'll go personally, but one of the boys that like the grandchildren, he's had problems in it, and like he's had a lot of problems because he got into the wrong sort of ways, etc. Because again, his dad wasn't really about in it. Like sometimes the dads just, they're not about to like be there for their sons, and it's difficult, man. Like it's hard, it is difficult. And like he grew up, his mum ended up having 7 children with, I don't know, about 4 different dads, something like that. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So it's like all a bit like the blended family thing as well. Can that make a difference? Because you're blending families with different cultures coming from different places and blending, and then you don't feel included, or you feel different to them because you're a different colour to them, innit? Because you're different to your siblings. So it's all those different cultural aspects. Do you know what I'm saying? There's so much to it.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Mia, with the fatherless thing. You know, in my community, that's massive.
Massive, of course.
I see all my friends. A lot of my friends, they had no fathers around. That's not about. You know what I'm saying? Dad's on road doing whatever. Like I don't even have a best friend, but 2 of my friends that I grew up. One I grew up with nursery. One I grew up with in primary school. One of the dads, I see him. He's on the roadside. He's on that kind of like. I won't get into it. And then my other friend, like he had a stammer because he caught his mum getting beaten by his dad, and then obviously they were separated. So he and that was at the age, that Dele Alli age, right? I remember him as a kid. Remember when I grew up with him, he was a joker. He was happy, funny, and then around that age where it happened, I remember the change in him. And another friend I've got like that, I always noticed the change when the father separated, when the father started and then he went. It just fragments the child. It completely changes them. And the way they were like, the only way I could describe it is like, you know, like someone like another kid that might grow up listening to pop. They might listen to pop music, like, I don't know, Take That, Boyzone, whatever, and then all of a sudden they're into heavy metal, grunge music. Why they're so dark? That's like it with my boys, but with hip hop or rap. Do you know what I mean? Equivalent. 1 minute, like they will calm with it. Next minute, their personalities just shift. I remember I got family members that, like, the change is crazy and it affects them. And you could just see with Dele, I reckon his pop's not being about, and him being unruly just made him who he is. But even like he's talking about being scared and having fear. He's like, I have fear like everyone else. I just deal with it differently. Like he said, like bravery is his thing. Like he's just a lot braver than most people, and that showed out in his football. You know, he would do things off the cuff, and that's why pundits out there, they were like, "Oh, we're comparing him to this guy and that guy," and they didn't want to, you know, change him too much because then you might lose that kind of aggression. That's what makes Dele Alli him, Dele Alli, and so the dynamics behind it is fascinating because at one end you can relate and you can see what's going on, but at the time, no one could see what was going on and why the drop was so big. And that, you know what was good, that this has happened because he could have gone the other way. You know, he could have ended up topping himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
man.
then what? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have known. We'd be none less the wiser.
Yeah.
So
Do you know what I was going to say about the brave thing, Ash? Because if you're on road, you can't show weakness in it, because you show weakness, you're
yeah, you're
dead
getting
man,
moved to.
isn't it?
Yeah, you're
You're
getting
just
moved to. Yeah, yeah.
so that's it, isn't
Got the
it?
kids
So
carry knives. Like, do you know what
you
I'm saying?
can't show
Because
weakness. You
they're
can't.
carrying weapons with them. Like, it's crazy because of that whole victimization, and especially for boys, it's like it's a lot scary as a boy if growing up in a certain environment. Whether you're from this neighborhood or that neighborhood, it's hard because if you're from a privileged neighborhood, then you might find it even harder. You might get even targeted even more. You see what I'm trying to say? So you're surrounded. But if you're from the other neighborhood and you're in this state, you still need to protect yourself because that estate don't get on with that estate, or you go down this road, you can't walk on this side of the road. Like where where I'm from, or the boys that I know, like in South, it's crazy. It was like literally a separation of a road, like a Gaza. It was crazy. Like one side of the road you could be cool with, and you might go school with another batch of kids. And then because you're seeing with these batch of kids now, they're like, right, is he an op? Is he an enemy? Like, do you understand? Because he's rolling with these lot, but they're my enemy. I just had a fight with that boy down the road. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy. Do you understand? And so I'm not saying Dele definitely went through these type of things. I'm just saying like people will be able to relate to the podcast in so many levels because it touches so many things where it's mental health, how he grew up, adversity, coming out, being strong, brave. Like there's so many things wrapped into mental health as well. Being sexually abused. I know women will be able to talk on that for ages. So like not trusting people. A lot of people got trust issues. Being dropped by the coach, like one coach coming in, another, and even down to the playing style. That was complete change for him. There was a clip I watched, right, and it was the All or Nothing documentary, and it stands out on my head because obviously there's been a massive divide with Ndombele being called lazy, whatnot, and people not liking his body language and why is he so up and down, and it's caused a massive divide. But one clip that stands out to me is that Dele Alli obviously was given the cold shoulder by Mourinho, and you see a clip with him and Ndombele by themselves, right? And they've been frozen out the squad, both of them, and Ndombele did a trick and he passed it to Ali. Ali did a trick and he passed it back to Ndombele, and I was like, look at that! Like for me, it was so sweet, but obviously some people might perceive that and think, oh look, these two lazy players, look at them, blah blah blah. But who knows? They might have had a lot in common. Didn't say anything, but guess what? They were from the same world and they understood it. They got it. Do you understand? So it was like, geez, man, you just never know. That's all I'm saying. Like even the hate for your Eric Dyers, your Davidson Sanchez's, there's so much to it, so much going on. Like that. Sometimes as a fan, like obviously we judge these players in football, not on who they are and how they are as people. Do you know what I mean? But it's got a lot to do with it. It's got a lot to do with how they play and how they're set up and how they attack their behaviors and attributes towards how they take information in, whether they switch on or switch off. Do they have ADHD? Do they have bits of autism? Do you know what I mean? Things that might not even be diagnosed. There's so much things that could go into it, like, but we don't know, that we're not privy to. And I don't even know if they're testing for these things at the football club because everyone learns differently. I might be talking, some people might switch off because they think Ashley's waffling now. What's that got to do with anything? Do you know what I mean? Where some people will understand it and they will relate to it more. I like to work, some people like diagrams, pictures, things to come at them. Some people like numbers, that they process that because it makes sense. Some people more logical. Some people a bit more, not spiritual or woohoo, but they're a bit more, I don't know the word for it, but they understand information in a different way. Like some people like English literature or language, poetry, drama. Some people like science, niceness, mathematics, philosophy. Some people like philosophy, like economics. It's different. They're all different and everyone's different, but learning how these people thrive in this particular way in this system can help bring together a team of people. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about a team sport, even though this is about an individual at the moment and how that's affecting the world of football. Because I think it will affect the world of football now. And I'm glad it's happened to Delhi because it's so close to Tottenham. And hopefully they're going to home in, as you said before, on those particular employees in those roles that work on mental health or well-being. They're going to double down on them now, hopefully, and they're going to have therapists. And I think Ange is. I think a lot of the fans really liked Nagelsmann because he was 70% psychological or mind and 30% tactics. So he really understood that. And I feel a little bit about that with Ange and Poch. They kind of got that whole, they get it. It's about the psychology of players, the chemistry, players working, not understanding what the individuals do, and then marrying it together in a system. I mean, and then that happens.
Joe, what I really actually struck me with what Ange said actually is that when he said that it isn't having a winning mentality that's enough. You have to build something you believe in. You have to believe in something. It's not it's not good enough getting winners in from various clubs who've won trophies. No, you need to have something you believe in. Because if you haven't got nothing to you believe in, what have you got? Like if you don't believe in what's being done, it's like anything in life. If you don't believe in it, you're not going to do it, are you? You're going to be like, why? I don't believe in that. Like, you know, you have to have that belief. And I feel like that's so important, and that's psychological, because he's saying it takes more than just getting winners. It takes actual belief in it, something to believe in.
Yeah, just
Do you think,
oh, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, someone mentioned in chat, and I can't remember who it was, that mental health should be on the national curriculum at schools. Do you think that is a good option? I mean, I don't think it's addressed enough in young children, for sure.
Yeah, I think, I'd say why not? I think so. I think there's a lot of things I think should be in a curriculum. I think taxes as well.
Yeah.
I think financial education, literacy should be on it, like how to like manage your finances to get them ready for the real world. And I think, mental health should be one because it gives you self-awareness and awareness for others. And I think that's important in dealing with the real world, because when you face hurdles, come back to Mia's point, Ange spoke about everyone wants to win. Now what? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to win. And also, what happens when you don't win? How do you deal with it then? Do you know what I mean? Do you start throwing your toys at the pram? Do you start kicking up a fuss? But if you've got something to believe in, then it's something else. Like, so that's why he's like, he doesn't want to focus on the winning mentality. He said, focus on belief, and that will breed the winning mentality, because now you want to be the first to do this. You want to be the best at doing this. And that's something you can hang on to rather than just winning. Do you know what I mean? Winning's not like, trophies get dust, medals get old. I've got many trophies in my cabinet. I've got medals in my cabinet. Do I pick them up every day and look at them? No. I'm more focused on what I believe in. What are my principles? What do I stand about? What do I stand about? Because that's who I am. That's my makeup. So I do think, coming back to your question, is mental health, should that be in a curriculum? I think so, because that helps develop the child. It develops them into a person, and it helps to, forge leaders. I think the best thing it helps with them is to be single-minded, and it's okay to be single-minded. It's okay to think different, and it's okay to have a voice, and you don't have to agree with everyone. And that allows critical thinking. Too many people want to jump on the bandwagon and listen to false leaders, and that's how you get lost. You follow someone that you admire, you look up to, but they might be preaching the wrong thing, or you might agree to them on some level, but you might disagree with them on other levels, and that's okay. And that needs to be all right. That needs to be normalized, that people are allowed to have other opinions, but it doesn't mean you need to be upset by it. Do you know what I mean? You can accept it, and you can accept that you've got a difference in opinion. What can I learn from that? That's what we need to come from. We need to come from a mindset. How can we learn? How can we grow? How can we develop? I might take a bit of this from Kate and a bit of that from Mia, and then I might integrate that into my own knowledge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's what it is, really. But I definitely think it should be. Yeah, I think I agree.
I didn't know. I mean, Kelly's just said that in a daughter's school, they do cover mental health. Obviously, with my son being homeschooled, I didn't realise that, but I've never heard anyone ever mention that before.
Yeah, I think they do something called, I can't remember what it's called now, the boys do it, and it's like social health and all of it sort of wrapped into one lesson. But my boys go to obviously like not a mainstream school, so maybe they concentrate on it maybe a bit more as well in certain times, because obviously with them they've got to learn how to navigate the world in a different way because they view things in slightly differently. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think a lot of schools now do have like it's all like wrapped into sort of one sort of lesson they do a week. I'm pretty sure it's like once a week they do it.
Yeah.
I think as well, for a lot of schools, there's pressure from the people above that, you know, the schools need to perform from Ofcom at a certain level. So they concentrate on numbers quite a bit. So I know the grading system has changed from like A to E or U, A to C or whatever. And it's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know it's a different grading system, and that I think the higher the number, the better, the more the school gets. I think different types of funding. From what I know, don't quote me, I could be wrong, but yeah, I think that's the reason why they might focus on other subjects away from like making mental health a curriculum and making it important. It all depends on the business of the school, because at the end of the day, the school is a business. They're there to make money. I know they're supported by the state and they get certain state funded, but you got some private schools or grammar schools, I'm not sure, but you got some schools outside of the public schools that they, you know, people want to send their kids to the best place so they get the best start. And when you get into those type of schools, you make connections, and it's the connections that are up in the world, not necessarily the knowledge that you have or what you can regurgitate in an exam or test and do well in. It's the connections. You might not know nothing and get the right connection because you went to that school, and then you're well off. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to someone that has to work hard for it, they might not get that same opportunity, even though they might have twice as much knowledge as you, or you know what I'm saying? So
not what you know, it's who you know.
It's a hard one. Like it depends what they want to push. Even if it is taught at some level, it might not be. And depending on the teacher, how passionate that teacher is, will that teacher, if you've got a good teacher that teaches you, you're going to want to learn, you're going to want to listen. But if you've got a teacher that's not passionate about it and think, I'd rather be teaching maths, then the child's not that same type of energy for that subject. You know what I mean? And then on top of it, as parents, you'd have to, I'm guessing the parents out there, they would have to ask their child, how was school? What did you learn? And then if they were into that kind of development of mental health, they would want to ask the child, so what did you learn about mental health? How was that? Do you know what I mean? You see my parents, you see my generation, they don't care about all that. They want to know math. Can you add, multiply, subtract, divide? Yeah? Is he going to be an accountant? Is he going to be a doctor, lawyer? Do you understand? And I know there's a lot of cultures, because that's what's going to bring you out the hood. That's not going to make, remember, they've come from the struggle. So when they come, they were consistent. I'm going to send my kid to the best school and they're going to get us out of this situation. Or I just don't want them to struggle like I did. I don't want them to do as many hours as I did. So, like, again, it's cultural. So it depends on what the parent kind of deems important. Do you know what I'm saying? And that kind of, those values will be installed into the child if the child's not able to kind of, and also when the child's old enough, they have to do the outside learning. It's not all about what you learn in school. It's what you take from school and what you can apply into real life.
Yeah. I've got a couple more questions. Do you think the era now of social media, and also this gutter press that we've got, who are so quick to jump on people and label them and put them down, do you think this has got a lot to do with the mental health issues of celebrities, footballers, and obviously the general public? I'm not including because we're not famous, but more people in the limelight. Do you think it's because of all this toxicity in the press and on social media?
Yeah, I personally think it's been magnified a lot more because of it. Now, in the past, someone would say a throwaway comment and then that's it. Now, someone says a comment to your face, and then all of a sudden, now you've got a social media tool or platform where you go on your phone, you go on your laptop, and it's there again. Do you know what I mean? It's not there for 5 minutes. So like we're having a conversation, I can turn this laptop off or turn my phone off, and it's done. I could go check the comments now, and then someone says something that's negative towards myself or derogatory, and I could take that on. I could take that belief on and think, you know what that person's saying might be true because I'm not strong enough mentally. And then, you just take that on. It becomes far more worse and far more detrimental to someone's mental health. Like I remember one time, like I'm a PT, right? So I work with other PTs, and one of them, this is during lockdown, one of the peoples I worked with, they said something about someone with a disability. They said something wrong about someone with a disability, and the way they got shut down was mad. They had to deactivate their account, and it was so bad that they started coming after me because I worked with that person. And the only reason why they found out I worked with that person is because that person had commented something on my post. And because they commented something on my post, they went after me. I got DMs, they were messaging me, harassing me, do you know what I'm trying to say? Even though I didn't make the remark, but because I was associated with that person, it became super toxic.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So right now we're in a society that you've got James Maddison signing for Tottenham Hotspurs, and something he said when he was 15/16 years old is being thrown up like he was a child.
Exactly.
Let alone physically, but mentally. A 15-year-old boy, that is a kid. Yeah. And people comparing him now as a man, 26-year-old man that's got 3 kids. Oh, he's not for Tottenham. Look what he said. He hates us. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
This is how fickle we are and people are in society. Everything's become a lot closer now. No longer was the person. I would never be able to hear what someone's saying in Manchester or Scotland or India or Australia. Wait, now I can hear people from all over the country, all over the world. Sorry. So you can't win. Do you understand? Things have become a lot harder to deal with, and people aren't always opening up. Some people are going to bottle that in, and that's affecting their mental health.
Like Caroline Flack.
Yeah, I mean that, and it's becoming a Dele Alli situation. Look how long it's taken him for him to even come out. You know what I mean? It's taken him to go therapy to fight those demons head on, be really brave, and then 3 weeks later he's come out and he said, "Yeah, you know what? I'm going to speak to someone about this." And I think maybe he's contacted Neville, or Neville's contacted him. I don't know which way around it was, but like he's able to talk about it. But do you know what I mean? There's a lot of people that aren't brave, like that are still battling these type of things. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, look how long maybe it's taken Ever to come out. It's taken him to retire.
Yeah, exactly.
Him to come out and say things. So goodness knows how many other footballers or just ordinary people, I wouldn't say footballers not ordinary, but just other members of the public that they're dealing with things. They might be new to social media. Like I'm new, and I'm pretty sure you're new as well, Kate. I don't know how long it has been on. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm brand new in this space. So, but then like I might be getting loads of comments. How's that affecting me? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I going to bed and am I hitting the pillow as I go to bed? Do you know what I'm saying? I laugh, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, these things are real. Like even Dele, he's laughing at certain things. He was laughing at certain things because that was the way he dealt with it.
Yeah.
But like, it's hard.
Mia, what do you think about social media and the gutter press?
Do you know what? Social media is basically given a platform for people to say whatever they want from wherever around the world, and they can do so behind a screen and not have no accountability for what they say. And that's got to be the absolute worst thing, is because so when a player doesn't do good, they can at them all day long on Twitter, at them, and they've got thousands of ats from people giving them just pure abuse. Inbox with thousands of people calling you names, like, and then things like Ash said, they're not just like just there and it goes to, you think, I don't care what you just said, innit? Like you walk in the street, someone calls you a name, someone goes past, oi, you bitch, and you're just like, whatever, man. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just walk past it and you think you forget it. But with the social media, it's now full on and all the time, 24/7, you know, like, because of the time difference, 24/7, these people get abused in their inboxes, getting added, and they've got no actual responsibility. Like, the social media platforms don't take responsibility and actually shut this down, because it carries on and on, man. It just carries on, and it's crazy. It's honestly crazy.
Yeah. So just to finish up, Ish, what do you see next for Dele? Do you see him coming back and being the Dele we all remember and love? Do you see him staying at Everton? What do you guys think?
Me personally, from what I saw in the documentary, his last words were, you know, he's spoken to Sean Dyche, and he said he's been very supportive about it. So it's down to Dele at the end of the day. It's all in his hands. He's actually come out. He said what he said. He's been brave for doing what he's done. He's going to have his critics at the end of the day. You know, there's people going to be out there that are going to say he's, as I said, capping. He's talking rubbish. So it's just down to him to kind of knuckle down now and be the footballer we all know he can be, and show us that talent that he has. And that goes for any other player, any player that's got anything against them. And you know me, you know what it is for me? I'm a person that I love an underdog. I always back the underdog. People that have got it against them, that are black sheep, that nobody likes, I'm their supporter. I'm their guy, because I know how it feels when it's against you, when no one's rating you. Like, no matter what you do, you can't do nothing right, and you might not even speak on it. The fact that he hasn't spoken on it for so long, and the press have hounded him, social media, they all get it. I can't just say Dele. They all get it. They all get horrible remarks sent to him, and it's not just about football. It becomes beyond football. Like, what's that got to do with how I played? Why are you saying about my mum? Because now he's brought his mum and his dad, his blood mum and his blood dad into it. People are going to be talking about his blood mum and his blood dad, whether he's got a relationship with them or not. Doesn't give people a right to say what they're saying, regardless.
No.
Who are you? Do you know what I'm saying? But coming back to the football, I think the only way is up, because he hasn't been himself of late. He didn't have a good stint when he moved abroad. Even like down to Gary Neville. Was it Gary Neville that was criticizing the way he was dressed? I think it was the way he was dressed or something. You're doing a massive look. They made all this effort, and look at the way you're dressed. Straight away negative. Do you know what I mean? Haven't even seen the football. Haven't even seen the football. Oh, look at this. Blah, blah, blah. And so it's just down to Dele now to get his head down. He doesn't have to be 2017, 2018 Dele, 2016 Dele. We're not expecting that. What we are expecting is a bit of graft, some performances, keep his head down. And if he gets a few goals out of it and he stays in the team, I think, you know, the only way is up, because Rome's not built in a day. He's on the mend. Like I said, it's only 3 weeks. Only 3 weeks ago. Came back. So I personally think I believe in him, man. I back the underdog.
Good.
And even if he doesn't do it, man, I still rate him. You know, like
massive
what he
respect
did.
to him then, he does it.
Yeah, what he just did then, like, it just changes the whole perspective on not just him, but players that aren't doing so well. Because there's so many players that don't make it into past the academy. I heard like it's only like 5% of the academy that make it. Look how packed our academy is, and only 5%. Kane, we had Kane come out, Skip, Winks, the rest of it, they're not really making it. I hope Winks now, when we play that friendly against Leicester, I hope Winks gets respect. Do you know what I'm saying from Spurs fans? Do you know what I mean? I hope they show him love.
Do you know what? I said that, Ash, though, when he was leaving, people would be disrespectful. I was like, this boy has been with us since he's 5 years old, man.
Crazy.
He loves Tottenham. How can you do that? Like, he's been with us since he was 5. Yeah, maybe he wasn't good enough to be at Tottenham. He didn't quite make it, whatever reasons they are, right? But how can you be so horrible to him, man? He loves Spurs since 5, since he was little. He's so little, 5 years old. And I just don't get it when people are like that, honestly. But back to Dele, I hope that he comes back. I hope that he does well. I hope that he now, because he's now come out with it, and I hope that that's kind of like something he can now step and move forward in it and move forward with his career. Because he said he's buzzing, he's ready to get back to playing football. He's got that thing back again. Do you know what I mean? Where he wants to play football again. So I really hope and wish him absolutely all the best. I really do.
Yeah, I think when he comes back to Spurs, wherever he's playing, whatever he's
I sing
doing,
the Dele song.
he'll get a fantastic reception, because whatever we all think, whoever he plays for, what he's done and coming out is the bravest thing and deserves the most respect, because it's not easy at all to come out and put your heart on your sleeve and openly talk about trauma like that. So
yeah, exactly.
Yes, I think he will get a great reception. That's quite a good place to end it, really, because it's on a positive note. But Mia, do you want to big up your channel? Thank you for coming on. It's been lovely.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Spurs to the Lions. I did my own little video this morning because I did feel really strongly about it. I've done videos with Ash. I've done a video with Flav. So you guys, if you haven't watched it already, please can you go over and subscribe and give those videos a watch and a like.
That video this morning about the Dele interview was excellent. So everyone make sure you go over and check it out. And Ash, do you want to big up your channel? Thanks for coming on. I found it fascinating to hear both of your perspectives. It's been really interesting and enjoyable.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Kate. Great to be on this fantastic platform. Great show, great content, great topics as well. And it's just good to have a chat, a different type of talk, mental health. I think it was so needed. Often it comes up, but because it was so relevant today, I think a lot of us felt strongly about this. And if we haven't suffered it in some sort of way, we know people that have.
Exactly.
And so I think that's why it was so relatable. And sometimes you just have to, I call it put the book down, put the football down for a second, and just be respectful for yourself and one another's. Because if you're going to respect yourself, you need to be respectful for others, and people will give you the respect back. But yeah, you can catch me on South View Quiz down below, as you can see. We want subscribers and likes too, but I mean, I'm trying to do the whole organic thing. I'm not in a rush to go anywhere fast. If you like the content, then like it, or if you like the vibe and you like our channel, subscribe. But if not, it's all love, it's all peaceful. And in the day, we're all here to support the team that we love, which is Tottenham Hotspurs. We just want what's best.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for coming on. It's not my normal show, but I thought it was a perfect time to discuss such a important topic, obviously, and I'm really grateful you both came on, because it was quite short notice, so it was nice to hear your side of your perspective and your experience. So I'm eternally grateful you both jumped on.
Pleasure's all mine, man.
And hopefully it won't be the last time.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm sure it won't be.
So yeah, that's the end of the show. So thanks everyone for watching. Just remember, try and be kind, because words are vile. If we all just try and just think before we speak, maybe it'd be a little bit nicer place. But thanks again, Ash and Mia, and thanks everyone for watching. And as always, go over and subscribe to their channels, and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Quiz.
Quiz.